Good afternoon.
Howdy.
Okay. Oh, over here. Oh, okay. We're up to here, Yud. Let me just find this in the book. Okay. Uh, let's see. Page Rage Bob. I know you don't have the book. I'm just looking for where it is. Um, it's not precisely the same text, so it's a little bit hard to find. Uh, I mentioned Bustanai. Uh, looking for Bustanai as well. Here. Uh, Yeah. Okay. But came da Shlitin, there's page Reish Ches in the book. Came da Shlitin the Siyam Hachin. Um, since the Rosh Hashanah were in charge. Uh, After Bustanai, they took charge evidently in a very overriding way, as opposed to the Rosh Yeshivas, whose power was diminished. Therefore, so now the situation reversed. Instead of the Reish Galusa coming to the Rosh Yeshiva for Yotzef, we had to go to them. Big Leon. In the middle of the days of the Muslims, made David ben Zakkai a Nasi, days of David ben Zakkai, who was a Nasi at that time. Um, the uh, It's interesting that this is, um, he says here in the footnote that this Iggeres written in 981.
Mhm.
And the Ishmaelim were at that point in charge for 340 years. And about half of that is a year 820. Okay, is approximately year 820. And this is when this, whatever he's about to describe, occurs. Not sure what he says here, not much down here, Bill. Okay, so he says, um, they were the Resha Galusa, as he says here, the Arab control, the Muslim controllers, diminished they repudiated the Nisim. And they didn't give them any more authority. They took away the executive authority from the Rosh Galusa. Um, so at that time, I guess we no longer went to um, the. They didn't automatically go from Pumbedisa to Masa Machasir to where the Nisim were. The only
Mhm.
occasion, I guess, the Kinichel and the Nisim, Lemehavilon, the Rigla, Befum when the Nisim were okay making a regal in Pumbedisa, so then Asin lost the coming late. So then I guess they would the Rosh Hashiva would participate. Okay, um, fine. So their powers was weakened. And now there is uh
Nothing remains except one child.
Yeah, but it's very different in the printed version. It says "Vashlo Yishem Mekulim Beis Asir Masachio Masim Mechasi V'Lo Afilu Chad Yanuka." Not even one child. V'Aflo Rabbana, no rabbis.
Hmm.
Uh, that's a very big discrepancy. So
Okay.
he says in the footnote here on the screen, Chanek Uchizke Ben David Shebsof Nasa Rosh Gogola. V'Achar Abtiras Rav Hai Gon Minola Gon Yeshivas Mumadisa. So he says he served as both Rosh Gola and Goyen. Sofi Amar, the bitter end. Ke'ekev how Shana Malchus as a result of snitching to the government. Nitpasu banav v'inu inu kashim barguz banav. Milbad shnaim shnimlutu l'sfarad or Rav Yosef ben Rav Shulban Agagid. I guess that was the end of the chain of Rosh Galusa.
Hmm.
Okay, so um, long discussion here in the text, which I will read to you. Yudnun Epstein explains that this passage, which remember in the printed text means says nobody's left, not a child and not the rabbis. Okay, so he says that Yudnun Epstein explains that this cryptic text refers to the grandson of David ben Zakkai. According to him, Nosson Abavli, when David ben Zakkai died, uh, and his son Rabbi Yehuda died immediately after him. The Sadigon took the grandson Chizkiah. Is that the name mentioned here?
Yeah, it says Chizki ben David. Rav
It's Chizkiah ben
Sadchik was the
David,
one
okay.
earlier.
But it's Chizkiah ben David, not Chizkiah ben Yehuda.
Okay.
Um, to his house, and there was nobody, I guess, to raise him. Nobody was found suitable to Rosh Gola. And then Rabbi Sadia died in 945. So according to this, Chizkiah was a Rosh Gola only for a short amount of time. Um, uh, um, it's interesting, just as a totally off on a tangent. We didn't mention Karoim, but the Karoim were very prominent at this time. I know we didn't mention Karoim.
Maybe he
Okay, the
hasn't gotten to
carrots.
them yet.
What?
Maybe he hasn't gotten to them yet.
Maybe, but the carrots are very prominent during the lifetime of Sadigon. So according to this, Chizkiah was Rosh Go for a small amount of time, and he had a son David, who was mentioned in a letter written by his own son Chizkiah II. David did not become Rosh Gola. This is situation 987 when the French version of this letter was written, as opposed to, I guess, the discrepancy as to when the letter was written with 981 or 987. And there's a reason that in the French version, it says that it says there was nobody left from the entire house of Reish Gola, even one child. Because David, the son of Chizkiah, left Bavel for some reason and never was a candidate to be the Rosh Gola. Okay, so that is, according to Epstein, the Sephardic version of the Spanish version of the Iggeres was written later, in the time of Hago. And then there was already Chizkiah II, the son of David, a candidate to be Rosh Gola, and he became Rosh Gola much later, in 1021. So
Hmm.
therefore, in the Sfard version, which is the version which we have on screen, uh, it says that there was one child who was left. Okay,
Okay.
because in 1021, there was, in 987, nobody's in power, like the printed text. And in 1021, there was somebody in power. Um, okay, and then in the footnote to the note here, he discusses how that relates to the veracity of the different texts.
Mhm.
Anyway, but the there was either there was no one left or one left. Okay, no one
Okay.
left would be in 987 when the office is vacant, and one left would be in 1021 when the office was filled. And according to
Okay.
this, you have to say that obviously the text of Gershon Shir Gaon was not necessarily just what Rav Shir himself wrote, which was earlier, the 980s, but was amended later on in the 1020s.
Mhm.
Um, okay. So, but we seem to be going back now. That was all a digression. Now we're back to Ravashi. V'nog Ravashi, Rav Rishvasim and Sivasa Kar L'Shitin Shnin. Okay, so he was Rosh Yeshiva for close to 60 years. Finally, in Perak Mishmeitz, Madur Kam de Ravashi Amalan Hachi, Madur Basar de Ravashi Amalan Bam Pan Achre. When the first version of Ravashi was one way, and then the other version was another way. The he says this is extremely long amount of time. Well, that's also true. Anyway, he says that. All right, this goes over a digression here, which we're not going to get into. Every year, the rabbis made it every year to do two mesechtas, whether it was a large mesechta or a small mesechta. So it took 30 years to do all the mesechtas, all 60 mesechtas. Since Ravashi was Rosh Yeshiva for 60 years, Havelu Trey Madure. He went through two cycles. Now, the Dafyomi cycle is a lot quicker than that. Shachiv Shnas Tafshin Lameches. He died in the year Tafshin Lameches. So I assume it's a Minyan Shtaros, which is 426. Okay, to the Christian for the Christian counting. I thought it was later than that. I thought it died close to 500. Umar Basrei b'Masa Mechasia. So now we're past the period of Amoraim. Umar Basrei b'Masa Mechasia Rav Yemar v'Nach Navshei b'Shas Tavshin Mem Gimel 431. Umar Basrei b'Masa Mechasia Rav Yemar v'Nach Navshei b'Shas Tavshin Mem Gimel. Why are they Masa Mechasia not in Pumpadisa? I guess you said that did I make a mistake before? Why is it Matzah Mechasia now?
I don't know. I couldn't keep up with who went where when.
Because there the Rabbana were in Pumpadisa.
Yeah,
Did they have to go?
maybe they went to Mata Mechasia where the Siyum were, and they stayed there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I guess maybe afterwards they went to Maskal. Maybe at this point they were still Matzah Mechasia and later on they went to Pumpadisa. Yeah. Okay. So it's going to go. Yeah. Yeah. That's what's going to happen. Okay. Okay. We just finished the parak. Yeah. Okay. Next parak. Amoraim Bavel, the seventh generation, the end of the Kufa of Amoraim. Okay. Basri of Ida Bar Avin B'Shal B'Shnaz Tavshin Sama Gimel. Basri of Nach Bar Amuna Tavshal B'Shnaz Tavshin Sama Vav Nafal Shamda the Gaza Yaz the Grad V'Tuli Shabbos. And then they had a big the decree to negate the Shabbos. It says here. The common parak is that Old Testament Parashat Biksha Ron Rachman Yishrai Bot Taninu Vol Samech Yaz the Grad Beis Mishkavo But like there. Well, they determined that a serpent should come and swallow him up, and the tefillah was in the sky. Yazgud says here Yazgud the second was a Sasanian king, who was very zealous of his religion. And he wanted, of course, it's still pagan at this point. He wanted to compel all the area of the Armenian area to become Zoroastrians. Okay, he was evidently a Zoroastrian. Okay, so this is approximately 456 or 457, the year when he dies. The Shibbolei Leket says, he brings down here in Hilchos Tefillah. I found she was going down, but we say Musaf and Shabbos Yontif Lios lachem twice in Kedushah. Lios lachem Elokim, we say it twice?
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, okay. We'll consider to see it. Because in days of Nachman, this obviously of Nachman, later of Nachman, Yuz-Gridad, the king of Persia, made a decree that they should not read Shma. Oh, in the okay, so this actually is very famous. Yeah, this is I don't know why it says twice, but let's see. So why it's really the question why Shema and the Kedusha of Musaf Shabbos.
Hmm.
Okay, so one of the Yuzgridad's Gezeras was that they should not say Shema.
Right.
So even they made it, they put it in the Kedusha. Um, they they said it, and evidently they said all the Kedushas, Musaf Mincha and Shabbos, Ben Musaf Ben Mincha Ben Bechol Ben Shabbos Ben B'Yontif.
Wow.
And what how they swallow how they put it in insert. They said Shema Yisrael, and they ended Ani Hashem Elokeichem. Right.
Okay.
So we still have a vestige of that.
Right.
Right. We have the Shema Yisrael Ani Hashem Elokeichem. And why they say it there, in order that Shema should not be forgotten. So I'm not sure. Maybe it's not just a vestige. Maybe that's all they're able to say. But
Yeah, I think the art scroll says that the Shotrim were in shul only through Shachris.
yeah. So
And
according to that, they would have said the whole Shema then. Or maybe it's after Shema Kriya Shema. They wouldn't say the whole Shema. They just say the shortened version. Anyway, so they say, but so this is to Shalot Tishlachach shouldn't be forgotten. So why? So yeah, that's it says Lama Tiknu L'Omer Bavlo. Why they say it in this way? You know, it should not be forgotten. And they asked
okay.
Rachamim, and the serpent came and swallowed up Yizgradad, and the Gzeir was canceled. Okay. Umar b'Mechasya, Umar mas Mechasya Rav Tavyume, who Mar Baravashi. So I guess there were some people in between Ravashi and his son. Shach b'shnas Tavshin Ayin Tes Motzei Yom Kippur. So what's Tavshin Ayin Tes? 467. Baser
Mhm.
Al Tasfa, the second Rabbi, the additional. Shach b'shnas Tavshin Pei Aleph. Hey, so I go Rabbi Tasfa. So the says the Yesh Mishniko came Nesh Kvar Nistam Nechtam Talmud. The Torah Talmud was already sealed. Varv Ena Mikra Talmud El Keto Sebasem, the only addition. Rabbeinu Badai Lo Sabarach. He doesn't know this way. The Kankos Rabbeinu Shloach Tab Talmud Ede Ravina. Ravina is still alive at this point. B'shnas Tatya El Tzrich Lomar Shebaki Arbei B'Tosefta. He was very conversant with Tosefta. Ulefichach Karua Tosef Tosfa. That's why this comes Tosfa. Avdil Mechacham Echem, distinguish him from other Chachamim who were not as conversant. Okay, so and he died in 473. Um, he brings out another story here in the text that perhaps called Tosfa because under his jurisdiction, Surah, together with his friend Rabina Sheni, they added to the Talmud notes and references, which developed in the seventh and last generation of Amoraim after the death of Ravashi and Rabina the first, who was already dead by now. And he was called Tosfa, the amender, right? Because Ravina II, who died a year afterwards, did not get much done during his short time as the Rosh Mesivta.
Mhm.
He might have been a Rosh Mesivta at all. Okay, so Barba b'Shabbat you Gimel Kislev b'Shnas Tavshin Bav Shachi Ravina. This is Ravina II. Great Ravuna do Ravina. The second Ravina Busafara. That's it. Okay, so Ravina II dies here, and this is the end of the. That's the end. 473. This is 474. Okay. This says Shabbat Yom Tir so Arichas Talmud. because this is the time when the Talmud was completed. L'chein Torah l'tzayin satarichem diyak. David chose the precise date to when iftar. Let's say teen shenas because so much should teen eight or shnar Amoraim. It wasn't enough to call him uh, um, the give the year. They give the date. Yud Gimel Kislev. That's the end.
Okay.
Okay, so for so, but there was the more famous Rabbeinu is Ravina the first. I think he was operating in the earlier in time of Rashi. He was Ravina the second. Um, but I'm not sure about that. That we had Ravina before in the sixth generation. Am I making it up? I'm not making it up.
Well, he may have still been around and just wasn't running the yeshiva. We'll let the younger guys run the yeshiva.
Could be. Um, I guess the Ravina first is much earlier. I don't know.
Okay, I
Mm.
always thought there was only one.
This is known as Ravina the second. So where's Ravina the first? Uh,
Okay, let's go on.
yeah, okay, I'm not finding it right now. No, I guess this is the famous one. Um, so then we have after that we have Uvayina Shem Malchut Pumbedisa. So now we're going back in time. Evidently, there were two yeshivas at this time. Rav Ashi was primarily Masa Machasya, and that's who was the still Pumbedisa. And Pumbedisa was Gvir Beikos. He was Shara Vishnas Tashmat, so he died much earlier in 432. We went back in time here. Vaser of Rafam Pumbedisa Shara Vishnas Tashnat. Vaser of Ruchume. Visma Mechalfin Rav Ruchume. Some say with the different ways of reading it. Shebesh Das Tashas Bidan Sham the Gaza Yaz Gradad. He died during the Shema. Vasei Malach Rav Sama Breda Rava Vosa Perak Delay Udemar Bravashi. And during this time, the time Mar Bravashi was in Mas Machasa, Shomar Mishanim Marino Kasu B'Sifrei Sikosem, the Bali Rachme, these are the ones who asked for Rachme, Ubali Tinon Yaz Gradad, and they asked Rachme Raz Gradad, the God Mako Base Mishkavo, Bato Shamda, that for the Tani should come and swam up. Yom Daden Rav Sama, and during the days of Sama, Tebes Shnas Tashpa, Itzu Ravna Ameimar Bar Mainuka, Buna Bar Marzucha, Resh Galusa, Mishash Bar Pakod. They were all taken in the as
Prisoners.
prisoners, and they were. Shona Sabatavis is Katolu, Huna Bar Marzucha, and the Nasi, and Mishash Bar Pakod. By the Shatadois Kadel Ravna Mema Bar Nuka, though there's some at least some really bad xeris going on. And the Shnaz, I don't know if we should go further, but maybe we should stop here. No, it goes finish the parak. Shnaz, but Tavshin Pehei, the Shachim, Rav Tasfa, when Rav Tasfa died, Itzu Kobnei Knish the Bavel. All the people in in Bavel were, all the Bate Knesios in Bavel were closed.
Mhm.
But the command came, Vistakidu Bnei Yehuda Megushoy. And they were subordinate to the Amgushem. Amgushem Shevet Parsi over the Avodah Zarah. But Skim Bekishu, Shevet in his Gaber, Shevet Kol Paras, and Midu Chamishan Lios Melch Paras. Because Ara Melch Koisa Ishtamdu you Amgushe. And they were all agreed to become Amgushe. The Magi, I think is the way you translate in English. There is a um, the Magi were the Persian priests. And
Mhm.
this is around the year 470. 474. And evidently there was some machlokas from between the in Isfahan with the non-Jewish priests, and the king Faruz said to kill half of the Jews of Isfahan and would take half of their children and bring them to this foreign religion. Okay, it was not such Bob. Rav Sama, Rava, over Basim Rav Yossi, and he was evidently in Pumbedisa at the same time as Ravina was in Masim Chasi over Yomoy, Sofa Rav, he started Tamuda, and then that was the end of the Gemara. And he says Yomi the Sofa Rav Gemara, but Mitzia Pei Bob Rav Asher Rabina Sofa Rav, obviously the second Rabina. For Ravina Rosh Yeshiva Surah, V'kam Rabbeinu, this is man Shishimish Ravina, Rosh Yeshiva Surah, which was in Masim Echasia, V'avasof Shimish Rav Yosef, Rosh Yeshiva Pumbedisa, and he started Tamuda, he created Tamuda, the primary Talmud. Rav Sarosh Ba'achar Amoraim, Mosifu Ba'oto Sofos, although there are other ones who added on later on. And now we come to Amoraim, and that is the end of that parak. And that's it for today.
Okay, Shkoyach.
Okay. Have a good week.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.